Hello world, it is Wednesday, March 16th, 2022, and looking out the window in defiance. Looks like it's trying to be a nice day today. It's a little chilly right now, but by this afternoon I think it's supposed to be spring-like temperatures, maybe in the 50s. The devotion for today, I'm taking a little detour, and the devotion for today is going to be from the UCC Lenten devotional called The Long Haul for March 16th. And the title of the devotion is Whose Side is God On Anyway? And the devotion is written by Marilyn Pajan Banks, and it is based upon 2 Chronicles chapter 20, verses 5 through 7 from the Message. Then Jehoshaphat took a position before the assembled people and said, O God, God of our ancestors, are you not God in heaven above and the ruler of all kingdoms below? And didn't you make the natives of this land leave as you brought your people Israel in, turning it over permanently to your people Israel, the descendants of Abraham, your friend? And Marilyn writes, during a recent dinner at a friend's house, after sharing stories of kids and grandchildren, teasing those of us who struggled with the spiciness of the chili, okay, it was just me, and talking about recent shows we had seen, the conversation turned to faith in connection to the emboldened behavior of white supremacists who claimed to be Christian. I grappled with how not only interpretations of the Bible often reflect how humans have signified God. I first learned this from the Reverend Dr. Joanne Terrell, womanist and professor at Chicago Theological Seminary. But the biblical stories themselves reveal this as well. Our storied lives are based on how we understand and relate to God. When I read this passage from 2 Chronicles, as a Puerto Rican in the diaspora, I absolutely cannot relate to the colonizers' experience of God. Thankfully, in our spicy theological conversation, rather than wasting time talking about this ain't the God I serve, we agreed that to live as a faithful Christian is to follow the commandment of Jesus. Love God, love your neighbor, and love yourself. And this made things clear, even as we agreed how hard it is to truly follow these commandments, especially when your neighbor is a raging racist. And Marilyn's prayer. God of our ancestor Jesus, forgive us for creating you in our image and retelling this story to suit our own agendas. In this Lenten season, may we seek to be more like Jesus, reflecting your love, grace, and justice in the face of death, denial, and despair. Amen. Well, for me, this devotion, I brought up a couple of different ideas, but one of which is the greatest commandment, to love God above all else and to love her with your entire being and to love your neighbor as yourself. And how Jesus' commandment to love your enemies was really his commandment. That's what we are supposed to do, and how hard that is. And yet, the other day in reading in another book I've been reading, the author said something to the effect that if God is love and we're involved in a difficult situation, we should bring God into that situation, which is to bring love into that situation. So even when we're dealing with our neighbor who is a raging racist, it's to love them. And to love someone like that is not to overlook or neglect their racism or whatever issues they may have. It's certainly not that, or to give them a pass. But rather than treating them with anger and hatred, treating them with love and showing them what love really looks like, being the presence of God for them. And it's not always easy, is it? But that's really kind of what this time for Lent is for, is to stop, take a breath, think about those times when we need to bring God into the situation, bring love into the situation, and see what a difference it makes. Hope you have a good day, and I hope to talk to you again tomorrow.